Hi, boys and girls. Chapter 62. Salute to a hero. Oh my goodness, boys and girls. I've just read the first sentence and I've got a few tears welling up in my eyes. Can you predict what's happened? Grandpa's funeral was a week later. The local church was packed out with those wanting to pay their final respect to this hero. Jack was sitting in the front row in a pew between his mother and father. The boy knew the coffin he was staring at was empty. What? Empty? Mysteriously, the Spitfire had never, ever been found. Neither had Grandpa's body. The Harrier jump jet pilots reported seeing the old plane flying higher and higher and higher into the Earth's atmosphere before disappearing from their radar screens. There were days and nights of searches, but all without a trace of the Spitfire turning up anywhere. A Union Jack was draped over the coffin. It was the British way to honour those in the military. Sat on the coffin was Grandpa's most illustrious medal, the Distinguished Flying Cross. Directly behind Jack sat Raj, who was crying and blowing his nose loudly like he was playing the tuba. Along from him sat all the elderly people that Grandpa and Jack had rescued from Twilight Towers, including Mrs. Trifle, the Major and the Rear Admiral. All were forever grateful to the man who had helped them escape. Grandpa. What happened at Twilight Towers had become something of a national scandal. It had made the front page of the newspapers and the television news. Jack didn't want to take any of the credit, but Grandpa, he had become famous. The old folks' home may have burned to the ground, but the nurses, remember those nurses, boys and girls? Well, they were still at large. Means they weren't caught. What's more, no one knew what fate had befallen the mastermind of it all. Twilight Tower's wicked matron. Remember her, boys and girls? Had Miss Swine perished in the fire? Was she busy hatching her next evil plan? On the other side of the aisle, a squadron of old World War II pilots were seated. These elderly comrades of Wing Commander Bunting sat proudly with their backs perfectly straight. All of them had some kind of military moustache, be it the pencil, the handlebar, the mutton chop, the horseshoe, the imperial, the dandy, the swashbuckler, the walrus, the Mexican, the lampshade, the toothbrush, the French style, the batwing, Fu Manchu, or the Salvador Dali. I'll just show you, boys and girls, lots of different moustaches there that they've described. Remember Grandpa said his moustache meant a lot to him. All these commanders have got one too. All wore blazers and slacks with rows upon rows of medals clinking together on their chests. All the children from Jack's history class were there too. They had petitioned their teacher, Mrs. Verity, to have time off their lesson to pay their respects. They had loved Grandpa's visit and would never, ever forget his thrilling stories of the Battle of Britain. Of course, the children wanted to support their classmate Jack too. On learning what a true hero the old man was, Miss Verity felt mightily guilty at how she had treated him. So she should. In the history class that day in her classroom. Now she was shedding a tear for Grandpa as well. Putting a comforting arm around her was the security guard from the Imperial War Museum. Romance had clearly blossomed between the pair since she gave him the kiss of life. Well, there you go. Behind them on the back pew were Beef and Bone, the two hapless detectives from Scotland Yard. They'd got to know Jack and his parents well now. They were heading up the police investigation into Twilight Towers. Having seen their interrogation technique, Jack didn't hold much hope. However, the boy knew they meant well, and even in this deep sadness, he was pleased they could attend Grandpa's funeral too. After some music from the church organ, Reverend Hogg began his sermon.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to mourn the passing of a grandfather, a father, and a friend to many. He was the only man I had ever truly loved, announced Mrs. Trifle, suddenly with a huge sense of melodrama. But as the boy stared at the vicar, he stopped listening to what he was saying. Jack had begun to notice that there was something very suspicious about the man. What on earth is going on, boys and girls? Something's not quite right. A bit worried that Grandpa really isn't dead. A big Spitfire plane goes missing. No one knows where it is. There's no body. Wonder what's going on. Come back again and we'll find out, okay? See you, boys and girls. Bye.